What's up, everybody? Welcome to Blade Talk, the Scab Show. Sit back, relax. We got a pretty good show here. What's up, guys? Welcome to Blade Talk. Sorry we started up late. It just so happens Scab is not feeling well tonight. So he should be popping in probably just to say hello to everybody and all that, but he's not going to make it through the whole live. So, which is fine. You know, I definitely want him to get some rest and all that. He doesn't need to have to go struggle to get through this whole thing. He knows Donnie really well, and he knows Carnivora, so he's nothing new to him. But I definitely got a lot to learn about Don, and you guys have a lot to learn about Don, and we all need to be a little educated, a little edutainment right now about Carnivora and what's in store, what it's all about. You know, what the hell does the name mean, and all that fun stuff. So, without further ado, well, first and foremost, guys, as you know, we support our veterans and awareness for veteran suicide. Hashtag 22 Day No More. It's something we tout on pretty much on my channel, at JS Bladecraft, and obviously on Scab's channel, Quiet Boys Outdoors. Also, this is being aired to Blade Talk. We're just trying to kind of spread this out to all channels, guys, trying to go for growth and all that stuff. But we support our veterans, awareness of our veterans. We respect you guys, veterans, and pretty much all it means is that you have a place here always with us in the Sword and Knife community. So going around the room, Samurai Bird, I see you. Gerbs, Gargoyles, Blades, Alex, Greg is in the room. Greg Vanderflip, Carl Ruger, Boston Blade Reviews. Thank you. Ken, Gerbs, thanks for throwing up all the links. Thank you, everyone, for being in the room. So I am going to let Don in the room, and let's get the show going. And like I said, Scab should be probably popping in to say hello to everybody. So let's get Don into the room.
Hey, everybody.
Mr. Don Moore Kramer. How about that for a name, guys? Don Moore Kramer.
Well, that comes from my grandpa, actually. He was Don Gordon Moore. And so we ended up going with Don Moore Kramer.
Moore Kramer.
Yeah. And, you know, my grandpa is actually the inspiration for Carnivora. He served in World War II as part of the OSS, which eventually became today's modern day CIA. But he did a lot of the logistics, if you will, in the German and French area. And so in the Eastern Theater as opposed to the Pacific. And so when he came back overseas, back stateside, he ended up becoming a defense contractor, working for the CIA, running NASA, a few other odds and ends. And so making this kind of stuff is quite literally in my blood.
Right. But let me cut you off for a second. I see Scab in the waiting room, so I'm going to let him in.
By all means.
Yeah. Hello,
hey,
Mr. Scab. How you feeling, buddy?
How you doing?
How y'all feeling? I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. A little tired, a little beat up, but that's okay. I didn't want to miss this. Joe, can you hear me okay?
I hear you absolutely fine.
And I hear you loud and clear as well.
Yep.
All right. I can't hear y'all for shit. I don't know if that's COVID or my phone, but we'll do the best we can. Hey, Don, not to jump in, but I'm going to jump in. It's my show. You said your grandfather was part of the OSS.
Yes.
That I'm fascinated with that. And I don't have it sitting right here. My Billy Waugh demo.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Waugh was the oldest CIA paramilitary guy to do any fighting.
Gotcha.
And he was actually part of a strike team formed in the early 2000s. I think it was called Stalker. But it's a throwback to those OSS days. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. And see, what was really unique about my grandpa, as far as the OSS stuff goes, is he was an outfitter every bit as much as he was someone who worked in the field. So he's the guy that you went to when you needed to guarantee you had the best tools for the job. And he went, and because he was a logistics officer, That was the title they gave him, but more than anything, he was an assessment officer. So he would assess every single project that they had, and then decide what each person is going to need in their kits, what is feasible, what's actually available in that area. Because there's a lot of times when supply lines either were cut off, or just they didn't have the materials actively in that area. And that's where the whole improvise, adapt, overcome kind of thing comes into place, and deciding, is this tool going to break or is it not? And more often than not, though, it was probably one of the hardest jobs on the battlefield,
Yeah.
because you had to do the missions that everybody else deemed as the suicide missions.
Yeah.
And so, and for him, he's gearing the people to do that. I mean, their lives are depending on this stuff. So my whole life, no matter what I've been around, what field I've been in, it's always the mission critical kind of thing. And so that's how I view knives and tools and things like that because of him. And, I carry his name. And so I have to carry his legacy, and everybody that I work with has to have that same level of care and passion and philosophy. And that right there is what Carnivora is about.
Well, I just heard an interesting quote a couple weeks ago from a retired, I believe, 4-star general.
Okay.
He said, novices study tactics, professionals study logistics.
Well, and logistics, if you think about a hierarchy tree, you look at strategy as the overarching you're looking at the entire theater. What is the strategy for this entire area, for this country, for this segment? And then the tactics is the various tools that strategy is coordinated through logistics with. And so the logistics officer goes off and understands what they're trying to accomplish in the big picture, and then figures out how the little tactical elements plug into that. For example, in modern day terms, business marketing would have things like sales, going to conventions, talking business to business, or customer to customer, or business to customer. And those are all various different forms of tactics. And while each of them is important, being able to coordinate them all together and enact the vision that is the overall strategy is the most pivotal part of all of it. Because you can build an amazing strategy, but if you don't have somebody who can say, these are the tactics that need to be employed, and this is how we need to gear them and work them, you can't enact those tactics. I mean, you can't go off and send a unit in without any prep. And you can't say that this unit is going to survive if you don't have the right gear, and so on and so forth. It's sort of like being an actuary. It's risk assessment and mixed with life or death situations.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this too, and because I did this right before I come on for guys in the room and for folks in the room. When we talk about Carnivora, I don't view myself as a knife reviewer to begin with.
Absolutely.
But I do actually view myself as part of the Carnivora project. And I just did a quick count, random count. To date, we have about 8.5 million views on Carnivora products. We just, the Nidhogg that Joe has now, I have a video that's getting up near 2 million views. And it goes into a little bit talking about strategy and tactics. I bet you 25 times today on the low end, I put Carnivora's name in. People, hey, where can I get it? And and it's like you and I were talking. So to the guys in the room, people say, oh, it's niche. Well, I disagree. 8 million views on what, honestly, probably 5 to 6 pieces. That's not niche. That's tools that are working and that are intriguing people and capturing the imagination. And I think what you guys have done is put function and form together I'm just going to stop with the fantasy. I'm going to stop mentioning that, because as soon as you say that, then it's like you already need to prove the piece.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you throw fantasy on, then it's, double. So I'm throwing that out, because as far as I'm concerned, Carnivora designs functional tools that are hard use, hard work, and they've held up. I love
check
that.
This out. This right here just made dinner for me, and being able to do this whenever I'm cutting, rather than having to solely rely on a pinch grip, means that I can be able to come at it the same way that as if I'm going in and trying to feather stick. I mean, It's beautiful. And I got some of the best mushroom cuts I've ever gotten because of this. And also, we only do convex edges usually because they're the easiest to maintain and, quite frankly, the most useful in a general sense. Because again, it's about, I have to think from the aspect of maxing out the utility on something that originally would have been fantasy. But this is, effectively an ulu with a handle coming out. That's really what it is. But it has the general facade of a khopesh from Egyptian fare. And to me, this is a dream kitchen tool and a processing tool. And so I think that you have a point. Yes, it may have a slightly fantasy facade, but this is incredibly useful. And I am in love with it. And, this is just a prototype. It's not even.
Did we lose him?
He froze a little bit.
All right, he'll catch up.
Yeah, he froze.
Hey, guys, while we're waiting on Don to catch up, I appreciate your patience, and I apologize. I told Joe my dad is very sick, got COVID, and I got home this afternoon and tested. So I'm going to hang in as long as I can. Okay. Don's back. Don?
Yeah, sorry about that. Internet went out, apparently.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Hey, Don, did you tell everybody what your background's in?
So, a lot of folks know that I have a military history degree that I acquired. I wanted to stay busy during COVID. Because my father is immunocompromised, I didn't want to have to worry about bringing anything home, getting him sick, things like that. And instead of going off and going around willy-nilly, I decided, well, if I'm going to be stuck at home, I'm going to go back to school a third time and get another degree. So I got the military history degree, and but prior to that, though, I don't know. I think I developed my first website at 14, 15 years old because mom and dad had a ad agency, and I was reverse engineering every website they put together and trying to figure out how it worked because they'd let me come to the office and do that. And then I'd say around 2018, when I was 18, I started getting into the game development side of things. And I spent about a decade in the games industry as a content creator, producer, and business person, effectively all around. I managed a stable of about, 15 or 20 different artists at one point. And it was fun. It was interesting, but I can tell you that there is a distinct difference when you're looking at video games, and the customer base that you have is very wide ranging in ages and beliefs and all of that. But they have one general thing. They can be assholes. Gamers are assholes.
Oh, that's for shit, sure.
The amount of horror stories that gamers have inflicted upon game developers is absolutely astounding and unreal. And, honestly, once I came in here and I came over to the knife stuff, I have not had even the tiniest bit of just grumpiness from you guys. It is a welcoming, loving, warm, open community. Even the most stoic and grouchy people in the community are respectful and civil. And I feel like a lot of that is because the large portion of this community is mature. We're older folks, we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and we've been at this for a while, and we try to guide the younger folks. Well, that doesn't happen in the games industry, and honestly, that's why I'll never go back.
Yeah,
I'm here for the rest of my life because I love it.
Yeah,
right. That's good. Well, to have you here.
you get a lot. There's a lot of diversity across the board.
Mm-hmm.
You get guys like Joe, who's a cinematographer. I'll tell you this: the thing that you were showing for the kitchen tool, Joe would probably be the guy to review that for you from a cooking sense.
Okay.
Just being honest.
Yeah,
My
no,
business
cool.
crash and all that, but when it comes to certain things, Joe's a cook, he's a chef. But you get guys like Joe, then you get guys like me, then you get guys that military. We have a lot of combat guys. We have a lot of disabled guys.
Yep.
One thing you'll find, and I want to make sure I word this properly because I'll catch some blowback. And normally I wouldn't give a shit, but I do want to be sensitive here. There's a lot of folks who are, and I'm one of them, for lack of a better term, damaged. And so when we come on here, we're kind of searching for something, and I am that. Mm-hmm. I'm not accusing something of, and damaged folks find damaged folks, and then you bring in folks who are just good people, and you have that mix, and you have that love of steel, and it flows beautifully together because
it
a
heals.
lot of it, whether no matter if you do what Joe does or what I do or what you do, we all love weapons and we all love outdoors and we all have that camaraderie. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do.
And you know, honestly, that's so. To give y'all a little bit of background about Carnivora, about our business side of things, the people who actually run the company versus me, I'm just the designer. You know, when I say the designer, I mean the one who says this design goes out, this design needs work, this design doesn't. And I don't want to say that I'm the lead designer anymore, really, because all I am is just making sure that things stay consistent to our aesthetic. That's really all it is. So I guess more than anything, I'm a creative or art director when it comes to that. And so the business side of things, it's very interesting because my parents, Alan and Zara, they're the ones who actually technically own the company. They come from really, really just high up jobs, CEOs of Fortune 500 level companies, you know, the Boeings of the world, if you will. Raytheon, for example, and so on and so forth, and executive level and all that for marketing, business, and sales in every aspect you could ask for. For example, at Tracor Aerospace, before it became BAE, at one point, my grandmother, my grandfather, my aunt, my uncle, my mom, and my dad, and another aunt of mine all worked there in various positions, some of them in executive positions. Like my grandfather was the head of negotiations and contracts for Tracor. And my grandma was the head of accounting. My dad was the head of marketing at the time. And, you know, I come from all that, but ultimately that comes with a lot of expectation of wearing a suit, being prim and proper, branding, marketing. You're constantly trying to be someone you're not in that world. You know, my dad grew up on a farm. My grandma had a farm, and in a small town called Largo, Florida. And in Largo, there were 1,500 people. That's what my dad grew up with. My mom grew up in one of the nicer trailers that you could get. And so even though my grandpa was an executive at Tracor during this time, he still had a double wide because he wanted to be humble. And honestly, I have spent the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years bucking the branding and marketing thing and just trying to get mom and dad to just be who they really are. And now dad walks around with suspenders, a pair of jeans, and a t-shirt. And that's his daily fare, and a pair of moccasins. My mom walks around and feels liberated for the first time in her life because you guys aren't judging that whether she's overweight or she's old or she's this, she's that. You're welcoming. You see mom when you look at her, and that's all that matters. And so that's why we're all in this. And that's why Carnivora is so incredibly important to all of us, because we have found exactly what you just said, a sense of belonging in a community that, and I'm not saying just Carnivora, I'm saying the knife community as a whole, all the groups, all the people that we've met. even when I pissed off customers, and I'll tell you, I have dropped the ball a few times on some things, and it hurts when I do. And I try to make up for it, and I have made up for it in most cases. But you guys are forgiving and understanding. And that's something that you don't get in corporate America. You just flat out don't get it. Okay, you messed up, you're out the door, goodbye, go find a new job.
Yeah.
Here, it's a family, and it's 100,000, it's 1,000,000 people. You got a family that's worldwide. And some stats that about Carnivora that are really important is we have designers now in 6 different continents. We have 18 different ethnicities total represented by our designers. We have about 9 or 10 different religious faiths and beliefs represented by our designers. And to me, what is the greatest way to understand a knife or a tool from another culture, but to let somebody who's an expert from that culture come in and bring that knowledge? And then suddenly you've got an Ulu that is also Egyptian, because I have an actual fellow who's from Egypt right now who helps me design these things. And his name is Muhammad, and he's amazing, and he's an illustrator. He comes from the games industry, but he understands all about these kinds of things, and he helped me figure out how to make that work. I could not have made that work without Carnivora, and that is because I had a subject matter expert, and he has spent, I don't know, the last 20 years learning Egyptology, living in Egypt as an Egyptian, and so these are the kinds of things that make Carnivora amazing. For example, Scab, that axe you got in your hand right there. Do you know what the inspiration for that is? There's a Freyer axe by CRKT that was done by Elmer Rausch, the elder, not the younger.
Well, that's the version 2, right?
That's the version 2. So Elmer Rausch.
Yeah, I've got that axe.
The Freyer.
Version 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the other room.
You see that nice big fang? Well, yeah. I thought to myself, Elmer made an amazing and beautiful bearded axe, but I don't want a handle that's that long. So I went and I want a little bit longer blade but he made me realize that you can make a sturdy woodsman's axe and processor with a long axe blade. And I didn't even know the guy. And now, do you know what I'm doing? I'm talking to his son every day, and we're working on a collaboration together.
Nice.
And my inspirations are working with me, and I can't tell you how incredible of a feeling that is to have a community that's willing to do that. That's why that axe was important to me, and why I've been willing to refine it with all the feedback and all that, and why we'll even have, no one else knows this yet, but we're going to have a Sabertooth V3 that is 100% American made, American engineered, and it's going to be either an 80 CRV, or we're going to go whole hog and just say, screw it, and make a CPM 3V1.
Wow.
Can we make one with a longer handle for me?
How long you want it?
I another 6 inches.
All right. I'll give you 6 more inches. I'll make that I'll have the V2 with Shawnee then, and I'll have the V3 with a longer handle.
And we'll bang.
All right.
Because listen, the one that I sent Joe.
Those are rare, by the way, Joe. There's only 10 of those on the planet.
Yeah.
The one that I sent him, I have fought and fought and fought. And here's the thing, and I'm glad you guys adjusted this. I'm glad you guys listened. Joe, show the one you got, the one that I'd sent you. Here's the thing. That bite right there, unless you're just a moron, it'll never hit you.
But it's scary looking.
But that's it. And I had a guy, he was as cool as he could be. He goes, dude, I don't disagree with you. I've watched your video 3 or 4. He said, but I cannot. And I said, hey, I get it. But with this one, it's not as pronounced. Now I've got people going, okay, Huh?
I even went so far as, so say this is the tooth, right? I went all the way to this point unsharpened. I told Shawnee that specifically when we do this, I want people to know that not only are they not going to get bit by poking there, but they won't even be able to catch themselves on this part.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but the thing is, and my point is, like with this one was, and I love the one Joe's got. I've proved it. I've taken that thing, just walked out and randomly hit an oak tree to prove.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, what this shows me is that you listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think as long as you listen, now there's a difference in listening and making adjustments and just letting people run all over. You can't do that. We can't do that.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. But it does speak volumes that you made a slight adjustment, and it's the same acts, but the response has been totally different.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I come into this, I guess, both it's a blessing and a burden that I'm new to this industry, to this world. But I have always been someone that believes in critique. And if somebody has a valid point and a valid concern, I'm going to listen. Not only will I listen to it, if there's any changes to be made, every single bit of that change will take that into account. And here, I don't think I'm an expert in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Am I experienced? Yes, I've gained a lot of experience since I've jumped over from games to this. And well, technically I jumped from games to fiction publishing to this, but that's a different issue. But the point is when trying to make something like this, I have to ask questions, and I have to ask people, will this work? And nowadays I have a much better understanding of it, but ultimately I respect people enough that if they can give me a real explanation as to why they think this change needs to be made. Oh, there's Mom. She's cut.
Hey,
Okay,
Mom.
you guys.
Hello,
Hey,
Mom.
Mama.
She's logged in
Cool as
from
a
the
fan,
hospital where my father is.
Hey, listen, on that, man, I know we all have different faiths, different beliefs. Please know that I prayed for your dad, and he's in our thoughts. That's why I haven't really blown you up the past couple of days. I know you're there, and we're thinking and praying to him.
Well, and last night was really rough because I come and I'm bringing a bunch of stuff in for Mom. I went grocery shopping and stuff, so she's going to be staying overnight for probably the next 4 or 5 days. They tell me I'm not allowed to see him.
Yeah.
And only one person is allowed to be up there because Mom's spending the night. And the amount of rage that went through my mind was unreal.
Yeah.
And so Mom and Dad also got pretty pissed about it. And so they talked to the unit director, who's the head of that portion of the hospital, and got special permission. So now I can come and go anytime I want.
Good.
But man, I can tell.
Doc, brother, one thing you have to do, and I can tell you this from experience with rage. One thing you have to do is just kind of sit and look, and it's hard, dude. There are guys who say I have a bad temper and they'll smile about it. I have an embarrassing temper and there's nothing to smile about. And sometimes what I have to do, man, when I get mad, it's okay to get that angry. You can't stop doing that.
It's what you do with it.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I allow I tell my son this, I allow myself a certain amount of time to be that angry.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to find a solution just like you did. But
well, my solution was walking out to the car. I sat there and I was talking to Mom on the phone, explaining it to her, and I was ramping up and spiraling. And then I realized, and she asked me, do you want to talk to your dad? And it just hit a light switch. And I said, no, because I don't want him to hear me like this.
Right.
I don't want him to see me like this. And so I tamped it all down. I talked to Dad. We laughed. And then after I hung up, I just sat there for about 5 or 10 minutes, cried and got it out of my system, accepted the fact that I probably wouldn't get to see him. And then I wake up today and magically I'm allowed to go see him. And it's just,
that's awesome.
I let go of that anger. And So anybody out there, just so you know, one of the main reasons why people with PTSD, CPTSD, which is complex, which means it's more than one event that compiles, it's a series of events. I have CPTSD, and anybody with that, the knife community is one of the coolest communities to be in, because when you're sitting there and you're just pounding away at stuff, whether you're pounding at a tree or you're building one of these, it's therapeutic. It gets that emotion out of you, and you're doing it with something that you'd be proud to do it with. Like this, for example. Why do I work with the designers I do? Because they're thoughtful. Look at this. You see this right here? This is by Jeremy Boulder Valentine. It's his Baroness. And by having this little thumb or pinky grip right here, I get an extra 30% power when I'm chopping down without losing any grip strength. And it's little details like that that make a world of difference. Like, check this out. I can use this as a even bigger choil right here, rather than just having this. He built a choil on top of a choil, and it works. It's
that's the thing. You have to look, people have to look at Carnivora not as one thing. You have to, whether
there's 25 of us.
And here's a prime example. If I can get the damn thing out. I tell you, I'm never going to design a knife, but I'll be damned if I'm not going to design straps, because I cut. Anyway.
Well, you're going to be
right
happy.
Here is a prime example.
I'll show you something here.
People don't realize this is sharp.
Yes, that's meant to be a shovel, man. Whatever you need it to be.
This is for defense. This from Jeremy, because this is a Jeremy Boulder Valentine as well. So you've got defense, you can thrust, you can slash, you've got the knucks, of course, you've got this, and you've got the jimping. The one thing that I was going to talk to you about too, the one thing that I like about Carnivora jimping is while it looks aggressive, it's not.
No, it's meant to look aggressive, but feel comfortable. I don't want to rip the thumb skin off.
Yeah, it's not that it's uncomfortable at all.
No. It looks aggressive, and that's what we want. That I'll tell you two things I get asked. Where can I buy it? And are you the maker? I literally just put out a short about 5 minutes before I come on with the Dragoth and the Thor and said, I am not. I had a guy this dude got beside himself. And so he said, but see, here's what happens, Don, with the shorts, we found a niche. We can get it out there. We can spark interest. What you're trying to do is convert it to sales. What I'm trying to do is convert it to pushing it to my long forms. Because the truth of the matter is, this is the only thing for people that don't know or didn't watch the video. My hard use video, this is the only piece in my life I've ever had to taper my swing because I thought it was going to go through too quick and it might bite me. Well, that's a lot of pop.
You want to know something that's interesting? Hold it like this real quick for me. Now, turn it upside down. Imagine you got a pizza under that.
Oh, yeah, I've done it.
It's a mezzaluna. I literally have a customer who bought it just so he could cut pizzas with it, so that he could feel like he's some pirate cutting pizzas.
Yeah.
And, it's funny, but at the same time, it works. Yeah. I cut my birthday cake with one last year.
I told you before, and I'll say it again, and here's the deal. I'll wind up sending Joe more pieces because nobody's going to showcase the piece from a visual aesthetic like Joe is. Nobody in the community.
Well, I'm looking at these pictures he's got where.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The stands, they're beautiful. By the way, Joe, you don't know this, but we just got this big, beautiful CNC machine that we have to assemble that just came in. It's 40 inches by 40 inches of table space, meaning we can do up to 40 by 40. But guess what? I want to do stands. I want to do displays. So if you want custom wood or brass or whatever stands for all your videos,
displays are something I've been looking for a long time. But it's something that a lot of people need. Not just content creators, but just people who have swords.
Yep.
who have big buoys, and then even displaying like knives. That's a
Well,
big
imagine you've got
thing,
this
man.
sitting on a wall or on a background here, and there's
Yeah.
some resin behind it, and it's glowing and lit with an LED. I
Hell
mean, there's so
yeah.
much you can do.
Are you kidding? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
all you do is throw an Arduino board in and with an LED, and then boom, you've got yourself a glowing knife stand.
Oh, I'm game, man. That's
And
that's
you
that's
know,
music to my ears.
something that a lot of folks don't know. My father actually built, and when I say it's 6 feet long, he built a full resin station with a vacuum chamber system that will pull out enough to siphon the air out of a 700 square foot area. So to guarantee that we don't have any resin fumes, but we have probably $14,000 invested in the resin side of things now for mom, because she wants to do everything from drop trays to 10-foot displays made full out of resin for knives, swords, and so on and so forth. Like, and that's the vision that a lot of people don't really understand. And my father didn't even at the beginning. You make knives, you sell knives, right? No, I sell an experience. That's what it is. And you want to go out into a combat situation with the Trench Panther, go for it. By the way, no straps.
Amen.
Yeah.
And check this out. No movement. 100% made from scratch, American made, every aspect of it. And by the way, you guys, anybody who's watching, y'all are the first ones to get to see it. Nobody else has. And I apologize if it's dirty. It's covered in wax. When Tim ships things, he just basically dips it in a thing of wax, and then I have to spend the next hour or so cleaning it off with acetone. And I haven't cleaned this one yet, but I want you guys to realize this is quite possibly the most insanely well-balanced knife of its size that I've ever held.
And that one is coming to me.
Yes. And dude, the ergonomics on this handle are insane. Like I can just move it and it feels beautiful. Yeah, you know what? It's gonna feel less forward heavy than the pirate you've got in your hand right now.
Sure.
And so because of that, I can do that a lot easier. But it probably won't chop as well as that pirate because it's got more weight here than the pirate does. Something that Shawnee does is he puts more weight in his hand, in his blade than he does in the handle, because for the Indonesian stuff, they need that chopping power that comes from the weight of the blade. Whereas here, we're a little larger folk, if you will. I guess really is the best way to put it. And so if you have something a little more substantial in the handle, you can put your power into it and do the work that's needed. And also this is a combat knife. It's not a parang, I mean,
Right.
So
it's the difference.
Yeah. And honestly, this is dedicated to my grandpa right here.
That's awesome.
This is the exact knife that I wish I could have given him to give his people.
That's awesome.
This is a love letter right here.
That is awesome.
Well, thanks for showing that to us too. That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to make sure y'all had first on it. And Tim busted his hump getting this stuff done and sent to us on time for some of these things. Like,
now explain for folks who don't know, explain who Tim is.
So Tim Ellis is he owns Ellis Custom Tools, ECT. He is both a brother to me, a friend to me, a lead engineer, a lead prototyping engineer. He is one of about 3 different people who are helping us build. He made that. That's the Mako. He made that from scratch as purely just an unfinished prototype to test not only finish, meaning on the blade finish, like the tiger striping pattern, but to test the concept of it. So all of ours that'll release will be an 80 CRV, and it'll be finished at the same level that this Trench Panther is, which is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, he made this one as well.
Yes. And so he is a longtime knife making, bladesmith, etc. But he also hand makes all these sheaths. Not everybody makes their own sheaths. They farm things out in some cases. Or if they do, Not everybody puts the same attention to detail into their sheaths and everything else. And that's why I partnered with Tim on this, because he has a tremendous amount of potential as a maker. And with between the two of us, I feel like we can put out some really amazing prototypes that can then become really awesome production stuff. And, you know, if you want, Joe, you can actually pop up that image that I had for you so you can show folks.
Yeah, the EDC combat, the specialties. Yeah, bring
Yeah.
that up for you.
So we have, and you know, this might be a little bit confusing at first, but we have 3 different types of things. We have our mid-tech production lines, which are these. And you'll notice different designers throughout this. Mighty Mouse is going to be, you know, I think 6 inches overall. It's going to be tiny. It's supposed to be just a nice little companion knife, EDC type deal for you that would match really well with some of his bigger stuff. The Desert Fox is actually dedicated to Tank Commander Rommel. I'm a military historian. I have a huge series coming out for all of the various commanders of World War II that are, and I have a rule. They have to be regular military, meaning they can't be part of certain parts of Germany, if you will, during that time.
Well, Rommel was not a Nazi.
Exactly.
And that gets missed. Rommel was a god of war. He and Patton both studied
fighting
Stonewall.
Nazism. He died not only fighting Nazism, but in exchange for 5 other individuals, co-conspirators' lives to be saved. Well, and for his son and his wife.
The thing with Rommel was he had knowledge but no part in it. Yes. But it was at that point, it was a witch hunt and people were jealous. But Rommel, Patton, a couple more actually studied Stonewall Jackson, who is near and dear to my heart. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably be grabbing a Desert Fox. I'm a big, my grandfather served in World War II.
Yeah.
In the 5th Army under Patton in North Africa, and then in Sicily and Italy when it transferred over to Mark Clark. Yep. He hated Mark Clark. He loved Patton. So I am very near and dear to the North African campaign and the Italian campaign.
Rommel is interesting in that he was one of the most thoughtful commanders towards his men, his soldiers, out of the entire German military. He put them before he put himself on everything, and that's not normal for a general, you know.
Also a master of propaganda. He loved having his picture taken.
That too, and but ultimately, I've got that. We've got 4 of them. I'm working on Montgomery.
You'll have to make the Montgomery as bland as possible. That'll have to be a thing.
I'm going to be honest with you. It is bland, but incredibly effective, because for Montgomery, he's an interesting individual in that what he did good, he did very well. But anytime he stepped out of that,
he was very, very reminiscent of Longstreet. They were both very good defensive generals. That was their strength. Come to them, fight them.
Yep. And very, you know, let's see here. Actually, I don't think I have the picture.
We need blood and guts.
Let's see here if I can pull it up. I might be able to show you unfolded on my phone for you. Oh, wait. I know where it is.
So, Joe, while Don's looking for that mini Dragoth is this one. Yeah. There will be a review coming out on this weekend. I need to do a special on Jason to begin with. I'm really digging this thing.
Okay, so really nice. Oh, wait, I gotta go back to it again. Sorry. Come on. Almost there. All right. So this right here is our Knight Commander, and it is just a nice. There we go.
You know what?
Fairbanks
Hold on.
sights.
Let me take off the share screen so this way I
Okay.
get you a little front. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So that right there
Oh, that's dope.
is dedicated to Morsehead, who basically kicked Rommel out of Africa. So
That's dope. I like that.
That's nice.
and if you give me a second, I'll show you actually where we're at with the Montgomery. And a gentleman named Alex Brown is the one who's helping me with that one, and he is a Brit, and so I felt, I felt that it would be very appropriate to have a Brit come in and do that. Let's see here.
Joe, put that dagger up while Don's looking for that.
All right, here you go. So as you can see, it's very nondescript. It is just a straight up bayonet. There's not a lot of detail, meaning there's not a lot of moving parts, but it is just stabby stab. That is what it is meant to do. And something that we've been adding as a feature to a lot of our stuff is that that ability where it's rounded back here, where there's kind of a divot that goes in like that. That's a swoop, so that whenever you have it, so you can do that, you've actually got thumb gripping there for it.
Don, talk to me a little bit about that kaiju that Joe's holding.
So that kaiju, that was interesting in that originally it came as about this big. I don't know. Oh, I have my bastet, but that's John. You know that spear sword that is in the one that has the engraving. Yeah, could you bring that for me? All right, thank you. But it has a bigger sibling, which is, yay big. And I've got a customized one by Typhon Eldritch. But this is the shrunken down version. I wanted to create something that just as much as it will stab, it will work in the field. Why will it work in the field? Because, number one, I'll use this as an example. It has a choil on both sides. It's ambidextrous, which means that you're not going to have to worry about anything when you're trying to feather stick. You just grab it. You don't have to worry about what side you're going to. So you've got those choils that are right here that you can grab into right before the blade. Then it's got that recurve so that you can bite into things easier. And to me, what is a combat knife? It's a knife that is a utility knife that can be used for fighting. First and foremost, though, you have to survive to be able to fight. Your combat is 90% going to be survival. It's going to be utility. And then, yeah, thank you. And then 10% of that, you might be actually fighting. Even on this, I made sure that we added a little choil ramp right here so that even with this, you chop a tree with it. I have customers who have done that. Or you can sit here and do your fine work. Everything that we make has a certain aspect of utility to it that fantasy just typically doesn't have. Because if you get something like this, it's a sword. Okay, cool. Well, then you come back here, and this is actually sharp. You can go like that, and you can crack open a coconut. We've already tried. These things are made specifically to take utility into mind and figure out how to fuse it with that traditional, this is a sword or a gladius, whatever you want to call it. So, thank you.
I like it. I like it. Joe?
Don, a couple people are asking in the chat if you have any other samples on hand of whatever's on that chart that we displayed on the screen.
Not right now, but we have
Desert Fox. That looks like a really good knife.
Yeah, no, I don't have that right now, but I will have that within the next few weeks. I should have the blanks fully cut. We're working directly with New Jersey Steel Baron.
Right.
and they're water jetting them for us. And we just put in our first blank order. But we'll have the 3V. The 3V Desert Fox, the Jag one, the Leopard one, an Ocelot.
Now I have a leopard. Hold on.
Oh yeah, I sent you a leopard. I forgot about that.
You know what, Tom? While Scab is getting that, actually, I just wanted to ask you, what is the difference between Carnivore American made and Carnivora Indonesian made?
So the difference really is two things. One, we'll use the Baroness and the Trench Panther as examples. This is 80 CRV. This is 5160. Shawnee loves 5160, and he has one of the best heat treats on 5160 on the entire planet. That is not a brag. That is a straight up fact.
Proven it time and time again.
We have broken some of his stuff. Like I've got a Darkstalker of his over here that the handle is dark brown, but the whole blade is dark brown. It's covered in rust. We have tested so many various things. We pushed it so hard that even when it cracked and the blade cracked from here all the way to here on the spine, it still didn't snap in half.
Wow.
And it snapped and it cracked right here, literally. Like I admit I may have gone through like 3 coconuts at once with it. And yeah, that's the Leopard, by the way. That's our original prototype, or not the original, but that's our original final prototype. We have 3 of those floating around. Lori has one, you have one, and a buddy of mine, Andrew, has one. And so those are CPM 3V because I wanted to be able to get familiar with 3V and how it would function for all of our products. But that was made by Shawnee, for example. And so that's actually a Shade Indonesia version. So when we went to V2, we went with the Waterjet 3V, and we also adjusted some of the stuff. So again, you'll have this dip that goes like that so that you can have a thumb ramp for reverse grip, because I'm a big fan of dual wield, along with a big fan of ice pick grip, especially when you consider something like having an offhand as a pairing dagger or something like that. So for American made stuff, we have access to steels that Shawnee doesn't. That's really what it comes down to. And when I go off and I want to get a government contract for Carnivora, I can't go through Shawnee unless Shawnee's just a designer.
Right.
So one of the things that we've done is I've tasked Shawnee with coming up with a few designs as not only a thank you for believing in us and helping manufacture all of these things for us that he has, but because he's an amazing designer to begin with. And I want to be able to sell his stuff that's designed by him, manufactured by us here stateside. And so really it is entirely dependent on the steel you want. That's really what it comes down to. And whether or not it's part of our production lineup. Everything that's on that production lineup that I showed earlier is American, 100%. Go ahead.
There will be a review of this in the Mini Goth this weekend.
Awesome.
As long as I'm not sick.
Okay.
Now let's discuss pricing.
So pricing's a big issue, and I've listened. You see that the CPM 3V Leopard that Scab has rather, those are priced at $700, right? And those are made by Shawnee. Well, part of that is the cost of getting materials to Shawnee. I mean, the last time that we sent that CPM 3V, they hit us with an extra tariff of $200, and that was enough. And that's, as much as we spent on the steel. And so we realized that if we want to be able to use that, it's not only is it not cost effective, but really, I don't want people paying $700 for something like that. So Tim and I came up with the idea of water jetting, mid-tech, and so forth. And now, American side, the new Leopard 1 V2 is only going to cost $370.
Okay.
Plus, shipping. But yeah,
And that's
I
in
mean,
3V.
we literally cut the cost in half because that's the number one gripe everyone has. And, you know, they think, oh, that's only ADCR V2. That's only 5160. Okay, zombie tools. All they use is 5160 and everything they sell is 250 to 800.
Yep.
I mean, so, and there are plenty of people buying that. And so it's not that there's not a market there. It's that people want the shiny. They want the super steel, and it's that FOMO, fear of missing out. And honestly, that's why I like ADCR V2. Like this Trench Panther, I can get to you under $400. If I went through Shawnee and I was shipping in the ADCR V2, it'd probably be $650.
Yeah.
So
Makes
we
sense.
are working on those pricing things. We
Yeah.
are listening to that, as Scab said, and we're changing prices. Like this, when we get everything set up, this will be made in CPM 3V, brass, and G10. This right here is L6, brass, and G10. And that'll be under 300 or under 350 actually, most likely. I mean it's
What is that currently? That's L6?
This is L6.
Oh, cool.
And it is the very last bit that Tim had on hand, and he wanted me to learn about a new steel. So I can tell you I'm a believer because this stuff is amazing. I have cut through so dang many mushrooms, it's unreal.
L6 is a big steel with katana right now. That's why.
Well, like Hanwei, I think I'm pronouncing it right. Hanwei uses L6 almost exclusively because they have a Chinese variation of it that is incredibly strong. And it's, you know, but the thing is it's incredibly strong in the $500 to $700 price range. Yeah. And if you want something even stronger, you know, you're going to spend over $1,000.
Right now, the best L6 that's made in the country right now is called called Bayonite, and it's made by Howard Clark.
Yep.
But his swords, we're talking about 10, 15, 20 grand.
Yep.
But he makes currently the best L6, that Bayonite contraption that he does. So that he's probably making the best in the country right now. Everybody's making good L6, but he's like on a different level with his stuff.
Well, and you know, honestly, I might ask Tim if we can get some from him then. Like, because I'm a believer now. I mean, this stuff is incredibly durable. If you could get your
hands on some of his Bayonite and try to find a way to throw it into one of your creations and make it kind of affordable, that's huge, brother. That is huge.
And you know, that's something that I'd like. That's the main that right there is the big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, well, the prices suck. Okay, well, I've given you 12 months of layaway. I've given you Sezzle. I've given you Pay in 4. I've given you PayPal. I've given you access to PayPal credit. I mean, I've worked really hard to give people payment options. We even do in-house financing where literally all you do is once it's been paid at the 50% point, it gets made. Or once it gets to the 50% point, we set it aside. You know, I mean, I'm trying to make sure everybody has access to this because quite frankly, I'm not a millionaire. I don't have a lot of money. I mean, knives can make a lot of money if you do it right, but really, I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this so that someone like any of us can afford to get one of these. I mean, if all you can do is plug away for a year at $30 a month, I don't care. I'll set one aside for you. That's my thing. Is I'm promising to be affordable. I don't, as incredible as the Miller Brothers stuff is, it's not affordable. As incredible as the Dark Timber Brotherhood stuff is, it's not affordable to the average user. I want to be able to work with everybody within the industry and build a pipeline that allows for mid-tech production at an affordable level, no matter who you are. And so we, like for example, I'm even working with Midgard's Messer so that we can be able to license out some of our stuff so that it can go as far as Boker, you know, and get things in the 100 to 200 range rather than, you know, actually, now that I think about it, I've got something very interesting for all of y'all to see. if you'll walk with me for a moment so I can grab this. This is something that very few people have gotten to see, and it's the only prototype in existence, because when Dirk, the owner of Midgard's Messer, went to SHOT Show this year, Customs took $4,000 worth of prototypes, seized them, and he will never see them again. But this is the Jotun, and this is under $300.
Look at that.
And it's CPM D2, which means it's cryo-treated, which means it's top tier. This is G10 anodized aluminum. This thing is insanely light, has so many different grip points, and it's massive. But the point is, we're listening. We understand that price point, paying $550 for this Baroness in 5160, even though it's worth it, 100%. The economy with inflation and everything else, I know you can't afford to spend $550 on this. I get, not all at once, especially, and I get that. Yeah. And so my goal is to be able to continue partnering with people and growing this field of things so that we can bring the price down.
Because you know what it is, Don? Most of us who are in this community are knife lovers and all that, we don't want one knife. We want a lot of knives. So we're going to look at a carnivore and we're going to say, yeah, I'm looking at the chart coming up. I like that Desert Fox. I like that Mako. I like that Asla, but I can't afford to get every single one of them, but I do want all of them. So that's how people look at it too,
That's the interesting thing, is everything that's on that chart, 100% except for the Holy Terror. I don't know pricing on that yet. That's Zeke Menacho's. But and Tim's prototyping it right now. But everything else is under 400. I can guarantee you that. Which means that we have put ourselves within the Bark River Knives range as far as pricing and steel quality goes. And also, G10. So we've upgraded to that from just micarta. So Mighty Mouse is, I can tell you right now, the Mighty Mouse, the Kinship, the Mini Dragoth, the Ocelot, and the FPT will all be under 325. They'll be anywhere from 225 to 325, and that's in Nitro V, 3V, 80 CRV. I mean, those are really insanely good steels. And so not only have we spent the last year making it so that we can provide these steels, but all the way down, that Jaguar 1, that's 375. The Mako has 3 variants. That's the first part of our active duty combat initiative, by the way. Something that it is dedicated to my grandpa. If you are actively serving in either the United States military or one of our direct allies, one of our NATO allies, I will give you that Mako for $199, and I will pay for shipping out of my own pocket if you're active duty. That's how much I love this community. Now, if you're a veteran, you will get it for $249, and you have to pay shipping. Sorry. But if you're just a collector, we're going to charge you $349. Why? Because $50 of that goes towards making sure that we always have 3 Makos that we can order at any time with each one of those purchases for active duty soldiers. It guarantees that we can water jet those. And so that is an incredibly important project for us. So just know that anytime a regular collector buys that, not only are they buying a really cool knife, but they're actually giving back to the active duty soldiers who are quite literally on the forefront of a war right now. I mean, like what's going on over in Ukraine is absolutely absurd. And as a military historian, it's terrifying because I have to look at everything from that point. And I want to make sure that, it's not an Abrams. It's not, when it's a Leopard, it's not going to be a Leopard 2A8 or 2A7 tank. But you know what? If this saves somebody's life in a combat situation, then I've done my job. That, as far as I'm concerned. But again, that Jaguar, the Leopard, they're both under 375. The Desert Fox is 349. The Sakari is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 285. Which then almost puts us a little bit over the normal price point of a Wusthof for a really, really good collector Wusthof. The Ronhell is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $349, and that is, that is in partnership with a very, very good hunter that I know. I went to high school with him actually, named Julian Ronhell, and we've gone through about 3 different variations of it, and I'm even partnering with the bow hunting community right now with a company called Adrenaline Bow Hunts, and we're going to be putting out their own skinning knife. And I want to be able to make affordable knives that are high end quality that you also have payment plans for, because like I know that I can afford to spend $50 a week on knives. So if I'm going off and I want to sizzle something, and I want to be able to buy something like this and say it's $400 and I'm spending $50 a week on it. Well, within 2 months, I've paid this off and I can go on to the next knife and the next knife. Or if you've only got $20, then it's going to $25 a week. It's going to take longer. I don't care. I will work with you. And it's not out of desperation or anything like that. It's because I understand. I can't tell you how many thousands of hours I have stared at Knife HQ, DLT, wow, everything's Knife Center, and all the others that are out there, and even Chicago Cutlery. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at all that, and and when I say Chicago Cutlery, I mean the company as opposed to the kitchen knife brand. I want these knives, but you can't afford them all, and when they're in the 300, 400 range, to me, that's a car note. And so you have to take that into account.
Joe,
Yeah,
I'm going to leave y'all with this because I'm fading fast. Don, man, I love you. I'm excited about what we got going. I'm going to go ahead and say my good nights because I'm starting to fade.
Okay,
Guys,
back. There we go.
There we are. Man, I love y'all. God bless y'all. I hope everybody has a good week. Joe, if you would finish the show, you and Don, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, feel better,
Need to
buddy.
bow
Get
out.
some rest, man. Hopefully, I hope
care of
you're
yourself.
staying home tomorrow and get some rest.
We will, man. Love y'all. Have a good night.
I'll keep in touch. I'll text you tomorrow.
You're feeling better, man.
Thank you,
brother.
brother.
Feel better, man. Don, I as far as your website goes, when are we going to stock these things? Because I know your website is like you don't really have stocked items. You have a couple pictures. Like, what is the future of Carnivora in terms of your knife production? Where is it going to happen? Just let us know what to. I mean, obviously, I know we're going to bump into each other in Blade Show, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that. And,
it's not going to be just Blade, but that I'm going to be selling these things at by any stretch. We have a group on Facebook called the Carnivora Collective. That's where we post new concepts because we have a lot of, the Thor that you saw before that Scab was holding that makes a Mezzaluna and all that. That was originally just a concept. It was just a quick, it was part of our Pantheon series that we were doing with Shawnee and Shade Indonesia. And we just threw it to the group and people liked it. And so we went and made a few. It's dependent on what it is. For example, these Baronesses will probably always be a made to order item. If you want to order it, you can. And depending on what steel you want, decides if you get it made stateside or if you get it made in Indonesia. But the price is going to be about the same if it's 80 CRV versus 5160.
5160, yeah.
Yeah. And the production time is different. Production time for stuff that's over in Indonesia takes longer because we have literally at any given point 300 or 400 items that are being produced by, this is weird to say, but the Indonesian Bladesmith Guild.
Okay.
And they are literally the best bladesmiths in Indonesia. like handpicked by Shawnee, bladesmiths, leathersmiths, whatever. And we have, just from Carnivora alone at our peak, we might have 300 or 400 projects going through them. And then Shawnee's got his own projects that people come to for him. And so that lead time changes. But anything that's made to order is most likely going to be going through Shade, Indonesia, number one. Number two, it'll be rare when we have stock. I might buy a batch of that. But everything, when we do the stock drops, it'll be put both on the website in the Carnivore Collective and also on our social media presence.
Okay.
And I would say that we'll have, within the next month or two, we should have a pretty nice stock drop coming in, depending on how fast Tim is able to eat through things. That would be 10 to 15 Makos, a few of the jaguar and leopard, and then 5 desert foxes.
Excellent.
That's going to be our first
I like that desert fox a lot.
Yeah.
I love.
Well, actually, if you give me a second, you've seen the silhouette, but what you haven't seen is the final design, as far as from a concept point of view. And so, if you give me a second, I can actually pull that up real fast so folks can see.
And is that Mako good? The Mako that I have, is that was a prototype? Is that
Yes.
going to be close to the final design?
I'd say design-wise, it's 100% the final design.
Okay.
But fit and finish-wise, it's only at about 75 to 80%. There's a lot of cleanup that can be done on it.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Let's see here. We have shared a great many knives and prototypes and pictures here since then.
I mean, I know Scab doesn't really want to bring up the whole fantasy thing, and I could totally understand, because you know what it is? When people think about fantasy, they think about
Conan.
shopping mall, Conan, the Conan sword, this, that, the other thing. I mean, if you really want to break it down, Don, fantasy even includes all of the Rambo knives. If we want to really talk about
that's exactly it. That's what people don't seem to understand.
Still, I mean,
You're
Rambo
still living
knives
out of fantasy, man.
are fantasy. They're not real.
Nobody is going. Okay. Rambo is
I know
real.
people in the chat are not going to want to hear it, but I'm sorry to tell you, but if we're going to talk about fantasy, Rambo
if you want
knives
fantasy, you're going to buy. If you want like military fantasy, buy SOG. I mean, really, that is, I'm not particularly fond of their knives simply because of ergonomic issues with my hands, because I've got carpal tunnel, and they just don't jive with it. And most of my stuff is made with carpal tunnel in mind. But if you really want military fantasy, you're going to go with SOG, or you're going to go with Miller Brothers or something like that. And, SOG is production, Miller Brothers is expensive. And, but they're perfectly fine buying those, but then they grump whenever you say that this might be slightly, it's not modern. But at the same time, they look at this and they say, oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, this is a fantasy blade. Did you know that? Because you're acting like you're in World War II.
Yeah.
You're thinking, or World War I, and you're in the trenches and you're about to stab a German.
Yeah.
Like you are literally about to stab a Nazi. I mean, this right here is Inglourious Bastards in a nutshell. And I mean, that's fantasy though.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's what people forget.
Yeah.
And
because we can't help realize that, listen, the whole video game inspiration, God of War, Kratos, Odin, the whole thing,
We're working on a Ragnarok axe, by the way.
Oh my God, don't tell me that. Holy crap.
We have two versions, a 24-inch that is meant for just everyday usage, and then we're going to have a full 36-inch long one.
I would love to see how you make up the handle.
And in both cases, they're going to be wood handles.
Yeah.
And they'll be reinforced.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I'm trying to get to a lot of the Rambo, like there's a designer in our community. He's called Donnie B all day. I don't know if you know him.
Yes,
But
I
he
know Don.
designs, he has taken a lot of Rambo knives that have been made and he redesigned them. He uses KHI Nepal, the Nepalese, to make them, and they're made well. I mean, yes, they're fantasy pieces, but as long as they work and they're functional, real tools that can be used, why the hell not? But that's
You know,
really what it comes down to, you know?
I was in a discussion for the Mako. It was Scab's video on the Mako, and Donnie popped in, and he was explaining that this was the first time that Carnivora had put something out that was within the realm of his work. You know, the stuff that he likes, because it is ultimately a combat knife. That's really what the Mako is.
Right.
And this, just like the Trench Panther is. And I'm like, well, that's because it's a Rambo fantasy knife. I mean, and suddenly it clicked. And really, I mean, that's all your katanas are. You're just fantasizing about being a samurai or a ninja.
I mean, technically speaking, they're replicas of a sword that, I mean, if we really want to break it down, and I'm sorry to tell you guys, there hasn't been a real samurai sword made for thousands of years because samurai are dead. There's no samurai anymore. So there's no samurai swords. So what are we doing right now? We're making replicas of a popular sword from ancient times.
If you look at like Musashi's blade, Miyamoto's, that's sitting in Japan in display and everything, that is a blade that has been passed down for, a thousand years. I mean, it's a family blade.
Generation. It's crazy.
You know, these are generational things. And see, that's why I keep coming back to these. You know, this right here is going to last you just as long because it's made from better steel and it's 5160.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's something that people don't seem to understand. 5160, when treated right, is better than anything that was put out in medieval Europe or in Japan or wherever else. It kind of boggles my mind. And so when you get something like L6 or CPM3V, you're looking at insane, new steel, because that's way up the ladder there.
Different level. Don, CPM was asking, so are all Carnivora products made to order?
No. A lot of them are. I'd say about any of our just random concepts are going to be made to order. And I come up with those often. Our designers come up with those often. And I ask, doodle or concept? And if it's a concept and it jives with somebody, then eventually they'll just get it bought and it'll go up on the website as made to order. If it's part of our production lineup that's there, you'll be able to get it at Blade. You'll get it in our batch drops. Similar, think Work Tough Gear, because that's someone who we partner with. A lot of our designers are Work Tough Gear designers as well. And you know how everybody's just itching. They're just itching for the next drop from Work Tough Gear. They're like, when's the next drop? Where's it going to be? Well, we're building that same philosophy here, and it takes time to make those batches.
Yeah.
And I have spent the last year building an entire American infrastructure to support that. And that's not easy when you're doing it in the middle of a recession. And that's coming out of my pocket 100%.
It's the time right now that's also makes it difficult. So if you had to give advice for people to get the best information on your products as far as when they're going to drop, what's going to drop, would you
go
say
to the Carnivora Collective Facebook group or ask me directly? And here's the thing, I'm always open 100%. Like if you want to drop me a line, either do it through the website, through email. Anybody who has emailed me to date will tell you that I will email back same day, usually within a matter of 30 minutes to an hour. Or you can measure me. Sorry, I saw a yardstick. Anyways, you can message me directly on Facebook, or you can just jump into the collective. And I will say, though, that it is going to take time for us to be able to enact this pipeline that we built. But we've got a lot of prototypes in the works, and everything that was on that production lineup is considered mid-tech and considered not made to order. It will all be batch orders.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, I am looking forward to what you guys have cooking.
Thank you.
I just from having 3 pieces in my hand, I can see the quality and what you guys are doing, and they're definitely pieces that work. They're tons of fun too, man. They're just tons of fun. You know, they're a conversation piece, but they're also things that if you have them in your hand, they will work for you. They will last. You know, they can take a beating, and you're just a hell lot of fun to use. You know, and I respect the fact that you're trying your best to price them in accordance to to try and make them more widespread and make them attainable for
Yeah,
most
and
folks.
you
You know?
I thought about it this way. Patrick Fabian from the Knife Addict Anonymous group, he mentions he encourages something called catch and release, which is you get a knife, and if you're not 100% in love with it, or even if you are in some cases, you pass it on. Well, then I was looking at how people in the Bark River community do things. If you go off and you buy 3 knives for the $300, and then you see something like a sword that we've released that's 1,000, you could very easily sell those 3 because
What's up,
I make
buddy?
sure
Welcome. Out of Limitless.
and then upgrade to that. You just go off and you upgrade directly to that sword. I mean, my goal is to make it so that our stuff is quick and easy to resell, so you can get into a new knife if you want to, but also affordable to get into it in the first place,
Right. Right.
while not sacrificing quality in the process, both
That's
in
a
materials and the production.
that's a great formula you got going on there. 100%. But you're on with some good people. You got some good designs. I like that Zeke knife too. Actually, I forgot what was it called? The
The
one that Zeke
Holy
knife.
Terror.
That's a nice looking
Yeah,
knife too. That
it's
was
it's
pretty good.
based off of a Dadao, and so he was on Knife or Death, and he had a chopper that had I don't know if it was 14 or 16 inches long, but anyways, he said that it was really hard to finish Knife or Death, and he wished that he had an extra 5 inches. So, because it would have made he wouldn't have gassed as quick or as easily. And so we said, all right, well, what kind of blade's your favorite in the world? And he goes, well, one of my favorites is the Chinese Dao or Dadao, and they defended Nanking because with those,
Yeah.
and so I was like, okay, well, let's make one. And so we designed one together, and honestly, this thing is a chopping monster. You want a
Yeah.
chopper
It does remind me of
that,
the Dow. Yeah.
that
It's
thing?
fun.
We have one with a 16 or 17-inch blade length, a prototype that was made by Shawnee for him. And that's how we knew for a fact that it needed to be at the 19-inch blade length. And that's what it is, by the way. And it's got a really nice, beefy, long handle to it as well.
Yeah, that's definitely good. Well, a lot of good things in the pipeline. Very excited to what you guys have cooking coming up. We've been off for about an hour and a half now, so I don't want to keep you on too long.
No
And
worries.
best wishes to your dad. I hope he's feeling
Thank
better.
you.
You know, but prayers and thoughts are going to be with them, of course. Don't let them not see you. Don't let anybody ever tell you can't see your dad.
I
You
that I
know?
can tell you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
but
not have taken that
I'm
sitting down.
busting your chops. But listen, great to meet you, Don.
It's
From
good to
speaking
meet
to
you,
you,
man.
I love what you got. I love your philosophy. I love how you're approaching this. And you're not approaching this, yeah, obviously, listen, it's a business. We're all making money. We're all going to make money in life. But you're
Yeah,
approaching this also wholeheartedly that you really want to share your passion
yeah.
with the knife community. And you want to be able to have more people involved with you and not be unattainable. And I really respect that. And I'm sure everybody in the room respects that. And guys, I'm sorry we didn't get to your chat. But we'll, with your questions and all that, I saw what you guys were asking, and I hope we kind of answered things along the way as we were doing
So
the interview and stuff.
one thing that I will encourage is if anybody didn't get their questions answered, ask me. Like I right after this, just message me on Facebook, Don Moore Kramer, or join our group. I will answer them right then and there for you. And I'll if I have to, I'll record voice messages so you can understand me better even. But I am open to it. So if you didn't get them answered, I will answer them. And also, I'll make sure that both I and all of our designers are on here more often for you guys. So you'll get more chances, I promise.
Fantastic. That's very nice if you're all for that as well. So other than that, guys, thank you for coming into the room. I know Outer Limitless
you,
has
everybody.
been here for a little while. Charles, Garen, Tempest Knives, Simon. We had a really good packed house tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. And I hope you enjoyed meeting Don face to face as much as I did tonight. And looking forward to the future, doing business in the future, seeing your stuff, meeting you face to face at Blade Show. And yeah, that's going to be a lot. This is going to be a good show, bro.
We have a table at Blade Atlanta, and we're actually partnering with RMJ, Midgard's Messer, potentially Wander Tactical, Work Tough Gear, and quite a few other designers that if you go to each one of their tables and you come back to me, I'll give you something cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I am so looking forward to Blade Show. From what
Blade's
I hear,
so much fun, man.
The rumors that I hear are that this is going to be the biggest effing Blade Show for a very long time. I mean, this is going to be huge. I mean, with the shutdown and all
for
the
so many years, it was shut down.
Yep.
You know, I went last year and it was amazing, and this year, I'm tingling. You know,
got the goosebumps, right? They rise it up.
Yep.
But it's going to be a lot of fun networking, just a lot of fun, just getting together with everybody. So,
and I encourage you, if you guys go to Blade, who's in the audience, come hang out with us, man. We love hanging out.
Please. You can't miss Scab. Just find Scab and you'll find it. But Don, listen again, and stay on after the live after I shut it down. It was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for spending the time with us. Thanks for sharing Carnivora with us. This won't be the last live we do. Listen, as we go on, we'll do some more lives when things change before the show. Maybe we'll actually do another one before the show, like in prep for the show and stuff. Maybe you'll have some more pieces that you're able to show off.
Oh, I'll have a lot more by then.
Yeah, no, this is not one and done, guys. We'll have Don on many times on Blade Talk, which is going to be a pleasure. So thank you everyone for joining us for the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don, thank you very much. Everyone have
a good one.
Evening. And don't forget, you can message him on Facebook or take a look at their page on Facebook to get more information. Have a good night, everybody. Peace out. Take care.
Have a good one.
Ciao, ciao.